Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back with Bucky.
Hello.
And Joe.
How's it going?
And today we have a very special kind of review for you, a different kind of movie review. It's going to be about The Man of Steel, but this one's going to be unlike many reviews because this is going to be a Seen It review. What does that mean? It means that there's going to be spoilers. Okay, we're not going to be talking about reviewing a movie via recommendation. We're going to be discussing the movie and some of the finer points and areas that people were confused of and points of disagreement, in other words. Also discuss mainly our favorite points and points that we didn't like, all right? So when it comes to The Man of Steel, what can we say about it? I liked it. How about you?
I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I actually ended up giving it an A-. It was really good.
Joe, what do you think?
Never been a big Superman fan, but in all honesty, after watching this movie, I started buying Superman comics.
Well, there you go. Well, that does show that it does work a little bit better. You know what? Man of Steel, the reboot after the horrible Superman Returns attempt back in the...
It wasn't that bad.
The hair thing was bad.
Yeah. Joe disagrees with how they parted his hair.
Kate Bosworth was bad.
Kate Bosworth was the only saving grace for me.
Kate Bosworth was out of place. I wouldn't say she was bad, but let's face it.
I mean, she's a great actress,
yeah,
but she's not Lois Lane.
But for the fact that she, especially a Lois Lane, who was supposed to be around 6 years after Superman left, that means she would still be in college or, be at least a cover photo. Yeah, she wouldn't be the Lois Lane that we knew because she was very young for that role. But enough of that Superman Returns. Let's focus on Man of Steel.
Yeah, let's get to the Man of Steel.
You know what, though? I will say one thing. In terms of a Superman movie, it was good. But in terms of a Clark Kent part, it was not very good. You know? I did not agree with how they gave us Clark Kent. Of course, we're all used to the nerdy Clark Kent who slouches and is trying to hide himself, right? The guy was just way too serious, way too brooding, I would say.
I don't know, because, I mean, we got spoiled by Christopher Reeve, how he portrayed Clark Kent.
Exactly.
I really don't think Clark Kent was like that, per se. You know, I think Clark was just a serious, normal guy.
No, actually, if you read and I'm talking about the first one. Okay, Action Comics. When you meet Clark Kent, he is a nerd and he is a wimp, and he doesn't fight, and he gets really pushed around a lot. It's only when he becomes Superman that he pushes back.
But he always had the powers.
The powers were always there.
He had to be afraid to use them.
But no, I think he always understood that he had to hide the fact that that there was going to be two different people. Of course, back then, there was a different reason for him to be Superman and Clark Kent, as opposed to being just Superman or something.
Right.
But no, I mean, that's okay. Superman, the one thing else that kind of got me about this movie, his taking off. Did it have to be so dramatic every time he took off? It
was a movie. They always do it dramatic.
I know, but when Christopher Reeve took off to fly, it wasn't that dramatic. He never broke the earth just to take off to fly.
It was just
what did you want? The greatest American hero type of takeoff?
No, not that.
Yeah, his takeoffs weren't that bad. His landings were funny.
I mean, I had to admit the takeoffs were a little bit overly dramatic for me.
But I loved how when he first started to fly, he couldn't fly. He was jumping.
A
nod to the original Superman, how he couldn't fly at first. He could only jump.
But that's the way it was always supposed to be. Superman was supposed to be very much of a man. And, let's face it, how does he fly, really? What's his source of propulsion? When you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
What causes him to move through the air like he does? Versus, in the original comic book, it's true. He was supposed to be somebody who could jump.
That's where they got it.
Yeah.
They were able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
bound. Yeah.
Because he couldn't fly. He could just jump very far.
Exactly. It wasn't that far, though, actually. It was wasn't it like 5 miles?
That's farther than I can jump.
Well, I know it's farther than you can jump, but for people who drive far away, I remember in the first comic book, Lois Lane gets kidnapped by a bunch of gangsters, so he has to turn into Superman and catch up with them, and they're further away than I guess he expected. No, he was able to catch them, of course, and save them and everything. That said, what was your favorite part in this movie?
I got to get back to that. I got to think about that one.
Joe, what do you Bucky, what do you think?
That's Bucky and Joe.
Yeah, they're interchangeable, guys, just so you know.
Pretty much, I liked Lois Lane's aspect in this, that she actually does a good amount of reporting in this.
She's actually a reporter, as opposed to the damsel in distress. So.
Yeah. I've been thinking, one of the parts I kind of liked about this one was the fact that we actually got to see General Zod as a general.
Right.
He wasn't just some guy who was equal to Superman. He actually was a military leader. He had his army.
You know, it's so funny. One thing I kept thinking about with this movie, and some people are going to kick me for this, but I was actually really thinking prequel, because think of a time when Krypton was still, alive, and General Zod and, what was Superman's father's name again? Jor-El were younger.
His mother was Laura.
Yeah, and before, they were just meeting up, because, Jor-El was a scientist, and Zod was the general. But remember, they gave the idea that they were born that way, that they were actually, constructed to be as they are.
Right, they were actually predetermined what they would be, I believe.
Now, one thing I got kind of interesting about this movie was the relationship between Jor-El and Zod. I didn't really get the impression that they were friends. But Zod did give a good nod to Jor-El by saying, "Look, Jor-El, I don't want you as my enemy." It's like Zod respected Jor-El and wanted them to be allies at least.
Yeah, I think that's how they were, because they made a nod to that in the original Christopher Reeve Superman when they were talking.
There was a time, yeah. I mean, there was a time when Zod was probably a hero. But you know what? And in some ways, if you take it from a certain point of view, and no, this is not a Star Wars reference, but in some ways he is a hero because he's trying to bring back his race. He's trying to protect Krypton's legacy and everything, and that's his mission. That's his sole purpose for being, is to protect the people who have lost. And unfortunately, it's like, Jor-El said, Krypton had their time. They had their chance, but their chance is over. Now it's Earth's turn. That said, I mean, Zod, he did make for a great villain. At least in this movie, there is no kryptonite.
Yeah.
And that's one part that I did respect. I always knew that was coming because that's such a staple. It's been in every movie. It's like, his quote-unquote one weakness. But it's nice to see a chance to see us without kryptonite.
Yeah, whereas his biggest problem is he's got someone who's just as powerful as he is.
Right. And very destructive. And, in some ways, he's also very green. Superman doesn't really know what it means to be Superman yet. Doesn't know what it means to be a hero,
right,
or what he's really supposed to do. You get the quote-unquote lost soul, lonely lost soul character a lot. He doesn't really know what he's supposed to be doing. He knows he's different, but doesn't understand why he's different. What's it supposed to mean. And actually, I was kind of taken back by that. The whole... Because that's just not Superman. I mean, I know he's an alien. He's kind of lonely and everything. But he had a good childhood.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was bullied all the time. That's what... I mean, one problem I had with this movie, constant flashback.
Yeah, I wish they'd have gone a little bit different with the way they did it.
Right. I mean, at least give us a little bit more linearity. Because it starts off, he's a baby. And then the next thing you know, he's an adult. And he's on the show The Deadliest Catch or something like that. I will say one thing I did like. I like the part where that one guy, quote unquote, saved his life. Because remember, he's on the ship and this one thing was about to fall, but that one guy pulls him out of harm's way just in the nick of time. And I wish they would give him more credit to something like that. I mean, I know the guy was kind of upset because he risked his life to save Clark Kent. And
who didn't even need it.
Who didn't need it, but
he
didn't know that. But I mean, Clark Kent should give him some kudos. It's like, hey, I guess that's one of the reasons why he did decide to be a good guy, because people do care. Anything to add, real quick, before we move on?
Nothing I can think of.
Because is there no favorite part or worst part? We talked about favorite parts, I think. Worst parts. I mean, one of my worst parts, his takeoffs. I mean, I understand he's got to take, but man, they have to make it so dramatic every time he takes off.
Oh, man, I got chilled when he took off. I was like, yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, what about you, Bucky? Any worst parts for you?
The one part that I really didn't care for was the Pa Kent's death scene. And we won't give spoilers when we were starting this podcast, but yes, Pa Kent does die in this.
Yeah, he dies in all of them, so you can't complain.
True. Yeah. Well, in the previous ones, he dies of a heart attack.
Right.
Which I thought was important to Superman for him to realize that he can't save everyone.
This one was kind of ridiculous.
And
I liked it.
Basically, with Kevin Costner being Pa Kent, he sees like a tornado coming towards him, and Superman's about to save him, but Pa Kent just basically says, "No, stay right there, let me die." Mm-hmm. I just thought that was a bit ridiculous.
One of the things that people talk about is why he did that, and that's been a source of great controversy. One theory is that he did it to protect Clark's secret. To protect Joe's... Joe, that has a vibrate,
Yeah, I really got to turn that off when we do this.
Yes, anyway. It was to protect Clark's secret. You know what the worst part about it was that made it the most ridiculous for me? Was the fact that all of this was because he wanted to save the dog. And Clark, all he had to do was open the door, get the dog, and run over there, and everything would have been fine. But I guess, one thing that Joe said, and I agree with, is that Pa Kent being, the adult, being the man, everything being the father, he still feels like he's going to be the one that protects the family. Everyone else has got to get to safety. Clark should protect his mother while he at least tries to protect...
He doesn't want him to risk using his powers to see him. He says, you got to keep yourself a secret or people are going to be afraid of you.
Right.
They're going to come after you. So when he takes a step forward to save Jonathan Kent, and he's like, no, don't save me.
Yeah.
Your secret's too important.
Right. And you know what? Another thing that made it really good was the idea of the father sacrificing himself for his son. Again, this is the second time the father had to sacrifice himself.
Jor-El did it, and then Jonathan Kent did it.
Right. And I think after that, he went for his journey around the earth, thinking he was too dangerous to hang around, or bad things happened to me, and he left and traveled to different places. Now, one of the places they come to, and this is another thing that's very interesting, is the Fortress of Solitude is now supposed to be this ship. And I was very upset by this because they didn't define this ship very well in the movie, I felt. Because, you get the idea is this is a scout ship. It came here 20,000 years ago, okay? And it's buried itself. And this is going to be the new Fortress of Solitude. Of course, the first thing that happens is he gets attacked by one of the sentry robots and everything. Right. But he's able to dissuade it and all that. Jor-El is able to input himself. And that's one thing I found interesting. Their version of the USB card that has
the Superman key.
Yeah, the Superman key. Now, what's interesting is that this brings us back to to something that people are talking about nowadays. A new concept, which is downloading the human consciousness into a computer.
That was neat.
And that's
I like that.
Generally, what they did. But he's still a robot. Don't get me wrong. It is his consciousness, but it's really not him. It's not his memories or anything. That said, here's interesting about the Fortress of Solitude, and this is one part I hope I'm wrong about. It's very hard to see this in this picture, but if you look on the left-hand side, these pods, when he first looks at them, there's all these bones and all that, because they're dead. They've been there for thousands of years. Despite the fact that they're in chambers that are supposed to preserve them, and the fact that they're encased in ice, which has been known to preserve it, they still died and disintegrated, and they're Kryptonian, but they're on Earth, and the Earth's sun and the Earth atmosphere gives Clark all his powers,
right?
But it didn't do anything for them. But that said, one of them was open.
Yes.
And that gives us the idea of...
Supergirl.
Yes. And you know what, though? That is not really how Supergirl came here, because Supergirl comes to Earth after Clark Kent is Superman. But, they like to change things. That's why it's a reboot.
Actually, no. It depends on which storyline you go through. Remember, they keep changing a lot of stuff after crises and all these things. At one point, Supergirl did come to Earth in a ship.
No, she always comes in a ship.
Well, I thought she was initially created because it was like the 70s and the whole, female superhero explosion happened.
Yeah, female superhero. Well, we always had Wonder Woman. When did Supergirl first appear, Joe?
I don't know.
I want to say 70s.
I actually going to say pre-70s.
Yeah,
because
I thought it was pre-70s.
I remember seeing some very old-looking comics where Supergirl flies out.
Yeah, it had to be at least the 60s or 50s.
Well, the one thing I always liked, and this is maybe more recent, it comes from the Supergirl comic book of The World's Finest, when Supergirl comes back to Earth for the first time, because they apparently killed another Supergirl not too long ago. This one had a more closer relationship to Clark. She was on a ship when Clark was on a ship, and they left at the same time, but she got off course. And so it took her longer to get to Earth. And she was always in suspended animation like Clark was. So he comes as a baby, but she was always a teenager.
I think it's similar to the Smallville when they introduced Supergirl.
And the idea was that, because she was a teenager, it was her duty to take care of Clark when they got to the planet. However, Clark is already a grown man now.
He already got out of the ship. She was stuck in suspended animation, so she didn't age. He did.
Right, exactly. And I think that's going to be interesting. But you never know with these things. This part was actually kind of crazy. This part, I love how he got there, Because a lot of people were talking about how did they get the tunnel,
When he went through with his heat vision?
He went through with his heat vision. He just cleared the path on his own.
He made his own tunnel.
Yeah. What's interesting is that this is one of the few powers that they actually showed him. They showed him with his super strength and could fly and a little bit of super speed and heat vision, but they didn't do anything else. There was no ability to breathe extreme cold and, freeze things. So that one part was missing. Now here's another...
Or speed up a bowling ball going down the bowling alley.
Exactly.
God, I remember that.
From Superman 4.
He dusts the ashtray off by his nose. And
Superman 3, actually.
Yeah. Was that Superman 3?
It was Superman 3,
okay.
Yes. But it was the one with Lex Luthor not in it.
Now this is a part of a little bit of controversy for me, and this is a part that I really love the most. Superman, Man of Steel, brings up a very important question for anyone hoping to travel to another planet. The word is don't. Because obviously you're not going to be well equipped to handle that planet. You didn't grow up in that planet. That planet is going to be so foreign to you, it's probably going to kill you. And that's what's happening here. If you see, what's her name again?
Lois Lane?
No, the other one.
Oh, Farah.
Farah is putting the collar on Lois Lane to simulate Earth's atmosphere, whereas Farah is wearing the similar outfit, which is simulating Kryptonian atmosphere. Now, Superman, when he first gets his first real taste of the Kryptonian atmosphere, he goes...
He gets sick.
He gets a little sick because he loses his power. He becomes normal. He becomes purely mortal. Okay? And this is part I don't agree with, because isn't it true that Superman has been, absorbing Earth stuff for so long that even if he was in a Kryptonian environment, he wouldn't lose his powers?
Actually, it depends. If they put him in a red solar radiation, yes, he does lose his powers.
Okay.
The red solar radiation overpowered, I think, the yellow, and vice versa. It depends on which one is the closest proximity to him.
Okay, so it's more of a proximity thing. Because once he gets out there, he becomes, he becomes very more. He doesn't have his impenetrable skin anymore.
Right.
He doesn't have his super strength, because all of that he got from our yellow sun. He got that from our atmosphere, and now he's home. And I got a kick out of Zod's greeting. He's like, "Look, guys, this is a time for celebration, not a time for combat. I mean, you're home. We're together again." Even though Zod's first ultimatum to Earth to bring back Clark was somewhat of a threat.
Yeah.
He's like, "Look, give us the give him up, or we're going to destroy you." And now Clark comes back. He's like, "Hey, good to see you again, buddy. Long time no see."
Yeah.
And I liked how Clark luckily had a talk with his father. Now this part, what's funny? This is a part where you can tell we're comic book nerds, okay? Because we get this. But a lot of people did not like this part, okay? Because Clark is on the Kryptonian ship. He is their prisoner. He can't break free. But luckily, Lois Lane has the key, puts the key in, and is able to download Jor-El into the ship's thought process. So now he's able to close doors. He's able to manipulate things. Able to manipulate the atmosphere. He knows where
everybody is.
He knows where everybody is. And so what does he do? He gives her not only a gun, but the secret to how to save the world. Okay? Now, you would think that he would give that to his son. Why would he trust this person who he doesn't even know? And but apparently, just because she's human, that's like enough for him. But then again, it's just a consciousness. That was
either that, or if she has the flash drive, obviously someone gave it to her of great importance.
That is true. I never thought to bring up that argument. You know, she did put in the flash drive, but would he really be aware of that fact? I guess he would because his son's all
He's in the flash drive.
Yeah, he's in the flash drive and the son's all tied up, so I guess that would be a thing. One other problem, the biggest problem I think a lot of people have with Superman, even people who liked it, it's the same thing.
Chest hair.
Yeah. No, not the chest hair, Joe. The fight scenes.
Wrong movie.
Yeah, the fight scene.
A lot of people thought the fight scene went along.
The fight scenes were always too long. It's like, okay, guys, we get it, you know?
Well, you got two guys who are almost
Well, it's not just between him and Zod. It's the fight scene between him and Farah and that, you know, what was the name of the sidekick?
I can't remember, but it was based off of Nom.
It was based off of, the same guy. This guy, you know what's crazy? These guys are all in armor. You know, they're super strong. But actually, why would they be super strong? They're not really submitted to the atmosphere, but they're submitted to the sun.
Right.
You know, and so the sun giving them the super strength, and you know they're adjusting to their powers a lot faster than Clark did, and that's one thing that always bugs me about superhero movies. But that one I was able to forgive. The fight scene, very long, very destructive. You know?
Yeah, someone did the calculation on how much damage it did. It was like over $5 billion.
You know, my question is, if when you watch Man of Steel and you really think about it, do you think Clark Kent did a good job of keeping his identity separate? Because for me, it seems like it would take a no-brainer to figure out that Superman and Clark Kent are one of the same.
They are?
Yes.
Yeah, there's the glasses.
I mean, you saw what Amy Adams as Lois Lane went through to figure that out. And here's the funny part. A lot of people don't seem to understand that she automatically knows that Superman and Clark Kent are one and the same. You know?
She's a great reporter.
So there's no mystery here that she knows. Other people may not know. But what about the general? You know, it's funny. It's like they're looking for Superman, right? They're trying to figure out where he hangs his cape. Remember the end of the movie? And it's like, dude, how hard can it really be? Considering that there was he even tells you, I grew up in Kansas. I'm as American as it gets. And there was a huge battle in Smallville, Kansas. You know, and one house in particular was visited and destroyed by the bad guy. How hard is it to figure that out, you know? And that's one thing.
It's a movie.
I know, but still. We all know that the separation between sacred identity and alter ego is shrinking almost to nothing, you know? One of the people that really ruined that was Iron Man. When Tony Stark decided not to keep it at all. He decided, hey, look, I am Iron Man. And, of course, you know, Peter Parker. Does he ever keep that mask on?
Never.
Yeah. So...
Tony Stark is not... That makes sense.
Yes, there we go. It's all coming together now. Oh, not yet. We're not done yet. Anything else we want to talk about this movie? I mean, you know what? In terms of Superman, I thought it was a good comeback for him.
Yeah, definitely better than The Return.
And I also felt that it's a sign of the times. You know, this is the way people are making superhero movies nowadays. You know, you've got the brooding super, and that brings up a contrast between superheroes. You know, Iron Man and Superman, Clark Kent. You know, the brooding, I'm a lonely alien guy, and Tony Stark is the flamboyant playboy. And you know what's so funny is that they both have demons, and I think it's Tony Stark who has more problems with his demons than any of the other superheroes. But he deals with it differently. Instead of hiding from it, he indulges in it and he expresses it. And, you know, he just accepts that for who he is.
Well, I will say that I agree with you that is the sign of the times. It's kind of like the Joker. How many incarnations of the Joker have we seen on film now? 3?
Just 2 for me.
3.
There's been
2.
3.
Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger.
Cesar Romero.
Okay, Cesar Romero. You know what, though? Cesar Romero was too much like Jack Nicholson, though.
No, Jack Nicholson was too much.
See, that's it.
But they're too similar.
See, that's it. As the movies went on, the Joker became darker and darker.
Right.
So the next Batman movie we see that has the Joker, odds are he's going to even make Heath Ledger look like a little wimp.
I want to see a Mark Hamill Joker brought to the big screen.
See, that for me was still influenced by the Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, because he was all about fashion and art.
He was just crazy. It's like
it was still crazy.
He wanted to blow Gotham City up. He was shooting at it from a plane driving towards the bomb. And he said, I'm going to make that bomb go off even if I go up with it.
Exactly. Well, he was that crazy. It always reminds me of, if you haven't read it, I think it was The Long Halloween.
Oh, it was good.
one fun, and this goes to show you the Joker's logic. He was flying a plane, and he wanted to blow up this crowd of people celebrating New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
Or was it something else? Because remember, they were going after what was the name of the guy? This killer.
Oh, I can't.
It wasn't Calendar Man.
No, but it was.
But somebody who always went around the holidays.
Yes.
And Joker had this logic to bomb this crowd because ultimately the bad guy is down there. So let's just bomb him and kill him and get it over with. And I thought that was hilarious. But here's my question, though. When it comes to Man of Steel, because let's face it, Superman was really never meant to be that dark. You know?
Right.
Because let's face it, he kills Zod at the end by snapping his neck.
But he shows remorse for it because he didn't want to do that.
Right.
It was the only way to save the innocent people who couldn't just duck under Zod's heat vision.
Yeah, who couldn't just be like, okay, you hold him there, or just come forward and go around the rock. Yeah. Or if he could snap his neck, why not just move Zod's body? Just a little bit, you know? But I mean, ultimately, it shows a point that, also that was the only thing Superman could do because they were so evenly matched.
Right.
And you know what? A lot of people complain that the neck snap was too easy of a death. But I guess, remember, we're still used to the bad guy dying a dramatic death of, being chopped into little pieces or blowing up or something. But this is just
obviously
a simple...
you haven't seen Skyfall.
Yeah. This is a little neck snap.
Yeah, but this one wasn't about the battle between Superman and Zod. This was about Superman learning about Superman, to me.
Right. Trying to learn about his place in this world and what he's supposed to do.
And him becoming Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, ultimately, I have to admit that was my biggest pet peeve with this movie. Because, let me tell you something, guys. If you consider the reputation and everything, one simply does not get a job at the Daily Planet. That's supposed to be one of those places that's very hard to get into. Kind of like Apple. If you want to work for Apple, it's easier to get into an Ivy League college than it is to get into an Apple job. That said, Clark Kent, grant you, we don't see the process of how he became a reporter. And obviously, let's face it, Lois Lane had to have something to do with it. She had to have been a part of him getting a job there. But they didn't show that. It was too easy for him you just see him at the end of the movie, putting on his outfit and cleaning the glasses. I love the glasses part, know. Because you know what this reminds me of too much of? What they wanted to do with Spider-Man. Remember the James Cameron version of Spider-Man?
No.
The one where he spends the whole movie being Peter Parker, and then at the end of the movie is when he becomes Spider-Man?
Yeah. At the end, and you know what? I'm seeing that over and over again. They did that with Star Trek with the reboot with J.J. Abrams. The whole movie, you never see Kirk in the outfit, but finally, at the end of the movie, he's got the yellow shirt on, and he is the captain of the Enterprise, right? Same thing with Man of Steel. The whole movie, he is trying to figure out what he's doing. He gets the outfit. How he got the outfit, I gotta admit, was kind of strange, because they had this outfit on a scouting ship? For what purpose exactly?
Well, they knew he was going to be there someday.
I guess so, yeah. It's like, that's common wear for all our scouting ships. But then finally, at the end, you finally see him as Clark Kent, the reporter.
Right.
And it's all leading up to that. And you know what I realized when I saw that? It was the true power of the glasses. Before, the glasses were, if you remember Christopher Reeves, the thick, nerdy glasses that, yes, they were practically a mask, okay? They were so thick and they were so rimmed. Right. And then he puts on the modern-day glasses, which are they have no rims! So, and he looks the same, The transition from Superman to Clark Kent, this has got to be one of the worst I've ever seen. Because, even Brandon Routh was able to pull off a true difference between Clark Kent and Superman. And Christopher Reeves, come on, classic. Dean Cain could do it, but this guy, I couldn't grasp the difference between him and Clark Kent. So, but don't get me wrong, I still love the movie. It was still a great movie.
Too.
If you guys have any questions about the movies, peel.
Peel Pozzible.
Feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or join me at PozzibleMovieReviews.com and leave a comment there, or join me on Facebook, Pozzible Movie Critic. And you can find us in all sorts of places. Bucky, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at PrisonerFan48. Personal email, prisonerfan48@yahoo.com.
Joe?
Best place to get me is Twitter at JediKnight52.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter also. I think I'm just Pozzible Movies, though, when it comes to Twitter.
I really got to find that out for you.
Yeah. I should know my own Twitter handle, you think, right? You know what, though? But join us for all our amazing podcasts. We're doing a brand new podcast, too, based on the Prisoner TV show happening that came out in 1967. A great series, a cult classic in the British Isles, and I'm hoping to bring more notoriety here because it's a great show. There was a remake with Jim Caviezel, which I'm hoping you will avoid at all costs.
I remember to see that one.
No, you do not. Trust me, I watched it. Bucky fell asleep
during the second episode.
Yeah, he couldn't even finish the fourth thing. It's that bad. But you know what? Look for us on Facebook, the new number 2 podcast. And we'll be doing some more podcasting on those episodes. Great episodes. Until then, we'll leave with the traditional prisoner goodbye, which is be seeing you.
Be seeing you.
Be seeing you.